Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to a solo pod. I'm going to be running solo today, answering a couple questions. This is UX Murder Mystery, and this is going to be the solo pod. So first question. This is from our UXDesign from Reddit. What do you do when leadership keeps shipping things you know are broken? So, okay, let's break down this question and kind of explain it for our general listening audience, and then I'll dive into my answer. So when we're talking about leadership, we're talking about corporate leadership, and we're saying shipping things. What we're talking about is probably talking about shipping code. And for folks that don't know, that means like putting designs or code into production. And when they mean broken, they mean things that go wrong. Well, so here's my answer. My answer for you is you send them some clips of this podcast. We have several examples, right? We have the Sonos app that broke, and you can cite the several of the articles that we listed. You can use Sonos as a case study and tell people, hey, tell your leadership, hey, look what happens when this product ships. And you could say, hey, there were product teams that were raising their hands and designers that were raising their hands and saying, no, please don't ship this. And they shipped it, and it has cost them customer base, it has cost them money. There are several examples. You can look at our podcast. Decoder is a great source. The Verge is a great source of information. Fast Company. Go cite some sources. Grab those sources. Do the research as a UXer. Bring that to your leadership, and push your leadership to then bring it to the corporate leadership. At least make sure that they're informed. Sometimes we assume people know, and they may not know. Let's assume that they don't know. They may not know. If they do know and they do have the information, they're continuing to ship it, that's a whole different problem. And that might be worth digging into why and figuring out why that's happening. Putting on your detective hat and just kind of like figuring out why that's happening. And that also might just be a sign to maybe start looking for another job if they are hearing that information, or if they do know that these features are broken. Or these products are broken and they're just continuing to do it. That's not great. Okay. I hope that helps. And if you have any further questions or follow-up questions, please send to questions at uxmurdermystery.com. So somebody asked, again, this is from Reddit, r/UXDesign, should I show AI in my process or hide it? I would never hide any elements of my process. I think that if you were to try to hide AI in your process when you're talking to either recruiters might not sniff it out, but I would say your hiring managers will definitely sniff it out. And you don't want that to be the thing that happens. And let's assume that you go to an interview where you go and you lie about it or you hide the process, and then you get into the job, and the job might be a company that's not using AI or does not want you to be using AI, and suddenly is seeing that you don't have the basics and the fundamentals down. I would say that would be pretty bad. So just be transparent about your process. Is my kind of advice about that. I have very mixed feelings. I've said on the podcast about designers using AI, and by AI I specifically mean LLMs. I would say I would hope that that's not your starting process. I would hope that you have the fundamentals. So yeah, it's related to AI. There's another question. What does a UX designer even do when AI handles the screens? It's interesting. So look, LLMs can make the screens. Claude code is able to make the screens. The problem is screens are easy to make. Everyone's always been able to make screens since software started. The problem is how do you make sure that what is being designed is actually solving a human problem, right? Is it actually achieving its goals? And that is that as a UX designer, that's the other half of your job. The other half of your job is making sure that you are able to achieve that the people are able to get done what they need to get done. So that's kind of my long and the short answer of that. And also related to that, somebody just said another question was, is UX dead, or did I just waste $12K on a boot camp certificate? That's a great question. Again, that's from the Reddit UX design thread. It's a great question. I don't think UX is dead yet. I don't know what your boot camp was like, so I don't know if you wasted $12K. But I will say this: I went to art school, and there were a lot of things that I learned at art school that coming out of art school when the illustration market had kind of cratered, and there were magazines that existed that no longer exist. The thing that you have to hone in on is, what are your fundamentals? So I'll give you an example, and I'll relate it back to magazines and comics. User experience means it can apply to multiple things. Thinking about usability, thinking about how products can be used. I'll give you a good example of something that I've noticed recently from the comic book world that I'd love for you all to think about when it comes to this topic. Marvel and DC are doing a Superman Spider-Man crossover, right? And they announced it. And what people don't know is that the first crossover is called Superman Spider-Man, and the second crossover is called Spider-Man Superman. If you're a UX professional, you know exactly what the problem is here. The average person is going to have no clue that these are two separate things. And you, as a UX professional, should be able to communicate to different companies and different scenarios about how to make things more human-centered and more easy for people to comprehend. So you may not have wasted $12K if you still have those foundational principles and you still have that curiosity and you just continue to work on getting better, and also know that none of us knows what the future is going to hold. I'm trying to give you my best. I can give you my best guess as to it, but what I will tell you, and part of the reason Eve and I started this podcast, is we're trying to make sense of this world and what is happening in this world. Another question similar to that topic is, nobody's hiring juniors anymore. Is that permanent or a cycle? This is a big I don't know. In the past, it was a little bit of a cycle, especially when companies are scaling down or the economy is a little rough. Lower entry-level positions tend to pause entry-level positions, and they tend to just hire or promote internally. But that was fun. Okay, well, I'm going to have to edit this. So I'm going to have to clip this part. Google decided to beep while I was in this call. It's okay. Okay. Let me take two. Another question is, nobody is hiring juniors anymore. Is that permanent or is it a cycle? Well, the answer to that is I don't know. In the past, when the economy has kind of dipped, companies would pull back and they would stop hiring um, entry level people. But I don't know if I don't, to be honest, I don't know if that's going to be um, a permanent thing or whether the economy will go back up and jobs will get better and then they'll start hiring entry level people again. I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you than that, but I don't know. Another question: why does it feel like I'm applying to 400 jobs and hearing nothing? We have not one, but two episodes you can listen to about that. We talked about LinkedIn, and even I talked about our struggles with LinkedIn and firing applications into the void. And we also talked with a recruiter on LinkedIn, Lindsay Adams, which is an episode you can go listen to. I 100% feel you on that. I can have both filled out a bunch of applications in this time and felt that they have gone into a void. The advice that Lindsay gave us in the episode that we listened to was to attempt to do more in-person networking. That would be more effective than than pitching your resume and running your applications into the void. It really sucks. It really sucks if you're more introverted. It's very, very hard. Even I don't know about y'all, but like sending out those emails, sending out those in-mails on LinkedIn, trying to do that networking stuff, it's hard. But just know that you're not alone, and there are a whole bunch of us that are feeling the same type of thing. So someone asked, and this is in from UX Collective, there's a question about why do I spend more time in alignment meetings than actually designing? This is a great question. This is really, really frustrating to a whole bunch of folks. The alignment meetings typically tend to happen when, instead of designing, typically tend to happen when the stakeholders or the people who have wanted the design done have not been pulled along or have not been part of the process. And that sometimes is on them. That sometimes is on the designers. I think that one of the best things that you can do is, and the best relationships I've had with stakeholders is when you yank them into the process, when you pull them into the research and you pull them into the design process. That way the whole time around they're on track with every single point. I would always say err on the side of over communicating rather than under communicating. And I would also say that those alignment meetings use those as opportunities to ask a lot of questions and get all the information that you need. They eliminated my entire UX team and gave the work to product managers. Should I even bother staying in this field? It's a great question. We don't know. The field is changing. Everything is changing. It's part of the reason even I started this podcast is we're just trying to make sense of like what in the hell is going on with this job market, this world, this everything right now. Everything is in such a weird state of flux. And I cannot tell you how many folks also have felt like they need to leave the field. That's a very real thing. We're going to actually be talking to some people. We're going to be interviewing some people and talking to some people soon about them leaving the field. Look, even I starting this podcast is a part of attempting to make sense of what's happening in this field. And I did not think that moving into podcasting would be a thing that I would do, but it's part of the reason why we started the show, is as a potential exit out of the field. So there's a question about the AI and the craft, which is that, is anyone actually using AI in their day-to-day work, or are we all just pretending? I think there's a mix. I think some people are using AI. I've used AI. I'm having mixed results on it. I'm really feeling kind of weird about it. I don't particularly love it, but I'm trying to balance the keeping my skills fresh, and at least understanding the capabilities, versus also thinking about the negative effects of AI. How do you deal? Another question here is more about org politics. How do you deal with a PM? That stands for product manager, for folks who don't know. Product managers typically lead product teams, and designers get assigned to product teams. How do you deal with a PM who overrides every single design decision and then blames UX when it fails? Well, I think that the best thing that you can do is just start bringing the data. And you need to start demanding the data when a PM starts overriding these decisions. You need to start saying what data. You need to start pushing back and start asking, well, what data is backing up this decision, or why you are overriding the design decisions that we've made. You can also say no. Remember, designers, you're too powerful. Mike Montero likes to say our two most powerful words we can say is we ask why, and you can say no. So you should first be asking, why are we trying to do this? What's the data behind it? And then if they're not giving you good answers, don't be afraid to say no. I know we're in a shitty economy and shitty jobs situation, but you could try. You can at least try to push back. My stakeholders keep saying, we know our users, and then refuse to look at research. What do you even do with that? That's a tough one, and it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon that we know our users. In fact, I've been in rooms where people have said we know our users. They've been presented by contrary research, and they've declined to use the research, which I see somebody saying, I did 6 weeks of research. They shipped the thing. They already decided to ship. Why are we even here? Yeah, agree. Hard agree. Again, this is why designers and UX professionals, we need a union, we need licensing, so that way we can start having backup to be able to push back and say no, I'll lose my license. No, we can't do that. My union, that would go against union rules and such. We really need to do that. Somebody says, design by committee is killing me. 7 stakeholders, 7 opinions, 0 user input. Is this everywhere, or did I just get unlucky? That's pretty common. This actually might be an opportunity. If they don't have user input, this is your opportunity to start introducing user input. I would challenge anybody. I don't know how big, if it's 7 stakeholders with 7 opinions, I don't know how big or small a company it is, but this might be the opportunity to introduce them to usability testing and user research, and start knocking out one of those opinions at a time. Like take opinion 1, design a little thing to test it. Tell them, let's spend $25 and run it through user testing. Introduce them to these concepts to show them how we test products. How do you tell your boss the thing that they're excited about is a dark pattern without getting fired? Oh, this should be easy. This should be very, very easy. There is research. There are Nielsen Norman Group articles. There are articles out there by in Fast Company. Use The Verge. Find examples of these dark patterns that are not good, and make sure that you have the ammo to talk to your boss. And make sure when you're having these, or your boss, make sure when you're having this conversation, you're framing it as you are looking out for them. It's not an ego conversation. It's a conversation about, I'm trying to look out for us as a business and make sure us as a business are not getting harmed or getting sued or losing money. Does anyone else feel like we've become pixel pushers with extra steps? Oh, sure, 100%. It's part of a big problem I have with Figma and the overuse of Figma and the overuse of like hopping into the design tools, digital design tools. A great mentor of mine was always like, let's start at pen and paper. And I'm an illustrator to begin with, so I always start at pen and paper or the iPad or whatever. Like, get out of that. And then in terms of it becoming pixel pushers, and if you're being treated like that, if you're being treated like you're the hands that are operating the thing, that's not a great feeling. How do you get enough information or how do you become more than just the pixel pusher and become more respected for strategy? I would say this. I would say if you're getting started, if you're being used as the pixel pusher, show excellence as the pixel pusher first, and then work your way backwards to the strategy. Because if you can show a high level of competence in that pixel pushing and in the small things, then they will start to respect you for the other things. I got into UX to advocate for users. I now spend 90% of my time in stakeholders meetings. This isn't what I signed up for. Yeah. That's unfortunately meeting culture in corporations, and especially corporate America, is a big thing. If you're spending 90% of your time in stakeholder meetings, I would say that might mean that that might mean that you are in a good spot to be able to start advocating for your users. So start thinking about what you can do, what pressure points you can start hitting to advocate for your users in those meetings. If you're frustrated and you're like, I hate this, I don't want to do this, then I think then either maybe it's time to start looking for another job or something else. It's very, but if you can start pushing on those stakeholders, start pushing on those stakeholders. Oh, is design thinking dead, or do we just not say it out loud anymore? It's a great question. I don't think it's dead. I think it's actually even more needed than ever before, in my opinion. So for folks that don't know, design thinking is sometimes also referred to as service design. This is what we do. This is more of, for folks that don't know or are not familiar with service design or design thinking, this is like a lot of the planning stages. This is getting stakeholders into rooms, or sometimes virtual rooms, and having conversations. It's sometimes also referred to as alignment, where you start having conversations about what you are planning to build, how you're going to validate it, and what outcomes you want and what goals you want. Sometimes I feel like the only thing UX designers actually control is the color of the button we were told to make. Yep, I completely empathize with that. It's really hard to really hard to deal with that lack of feeling control. So that's it for today. That's it for the solo pod. Um, really appreciate being able to have these questions and read off these questions. The Reddit community that's over in our UX design and our user experience are really awesome, and our UX research. We're also going to be forming our own community at Reddit called our UX Murder Mystery for folks to hop into and ask questions. You can also comment on our LinkedIn, comment on our videos, or send us questions at uxmurdermystery.com. Thanks for listening. This was the Solo Pod. Talk to you all later.